Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the City Council's Affordable Housing, Neighborhoods, and Finance Committee. It is Wednesday, June 15, 2016. Could you boost the mics up louder, please? It's 9:30 in the morning. And I want to welcome all of you. If we could please have silence in the council chambers. We're going to begin. Thank you very much. My name is Councilmember Tim Burgess. I'm the chair of the committee, joined so far by Councilmember Johnson. And we have a full agenda this morning. We will begin with our first discussion and consideration of the regulation of short-term rentals in Seattle. We'll then take up the city's first quarter employment ordinance. That'll be followed by a report from our Department of Neighborhoods on equity issues related to the issuance of neighborhood grants. And we will finish our committee meeting this morning with an update on the multifamily tax exemption 2015-2016 report. We always begin with public comment. We've had over 30 people sign up. We'll take as much public testimony as we can. In order to give as many people an opportunity to speak, we'll restrict comments to 1 minute. Please come when your name is called by Sarah. Please come to one of the microphones at the front of the auditorium. Please know also that we will take written comments. Either you can hand in those today or send emails. This is the beginning of the council's consideration of the rental housing platform regulations. We'll continue taking public comment throughout June and well into July. The council's ordinance on this matter is still being drafted. That will likely be introduced to the council sometime in July. So, Sarah, if you will call the first three names, please. And again, please come rapidly to one of the microphones at the front, introduce yourself, and share your comments. Thank you.
William Graff, Dan Moore, and Don McKenzie.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is on. Okay. My name is William Graff. I'm in my early 70s and have lived in Seattle since the 1960s. I have one mother-in-law unit in my home and 4 apartments in a building in Eastlake that I've owned for over 20 years. I've been doing this for the past 7 years and have invested our savings into renovation. After running a small furniture business in Seattle for more than 30 years, I had a heart attack a couple of years ago and found myself unable to continue working as I used to. Short-term rentals have become our retirement. I've never evicted anyone to turn over property for short-term rentals and have never purchased a property to convert. Most of our guests are families, moms, dads, coming to visit their children, going to schools, showing them schools. They're divorced parents coming to see their children. They're coming to visit to undergo chemotherapy, etc. In short, they cannot afford the $250 to $500 per night that is required in the hotel rooms in Seattle. We collect and pay our taxes and have done so since day one. We believe in supporting the community and encourage the City Council to utilize our resources and generate revenue for affordable short-term housing.
Thank you.
I'm in favor of smart regulation.
Time's up, Mr. Graff. I'm sorry. Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. Regulations may be in order for multi-unit buildings where landlords have done mass evictions out of the long-term market, but the intent of the regulation is misapplied to single-family, individually owned, vacation or second or retirement homes, as the other gentleman mentioned. These homes will not return to long-term rental market. They were never on the long-term rental market. So please don't discriminate against those single-family owners using it for retirement or individual home ownership. to make these regulations effective, please extend any regulations to second homeowners or retirement homeowners. The marketplace they've been in the marketplace for decades. Prior to technology, we used Craigslist. Prior to that, we used Seattle Times. So it's not a technology fear, and the discrimination is coming out of fear and ignorance out of what the policy really is intended to do. Countless of our guests are neighbors, families, relatives visiting Seattle, local residents who live nearby whose home is being remodeled or flooded. Additionally, we pay sales taxes. We pay our janitors a living wage of $30 an hour. So just think of the consequences. Thank you.
Hi, hello. Yeah, I'm Don McKenzie. My family and I own a home in Wallingford. We also have a unit that we rent out for half the year on Airbnb, and my mother-in-law lives in the other half. My mother-in-law is a retired social worker. She's 70 years old. She splits her time very glamorously between here and living next to a cornfield in Indiana. Okay, she's not a wealthy person, and she would not be able to live in Seattle if not for this arrangement that we have. Moreover, last year my wife found herself out of work for about a year. The income that we earned from Airbnb really kept us afloat financially. And so, the bottom line is this is not a unit that can go back onto the long-term rental market. My mother-in-law uses it for half the year. So all this rule would do is deprive us of the ability to keep ourselves afloat the rest of the year using that income. This situation's unique, of course, but talking to our neighbors here, I find everyone's story is unique, and that's kind of the point. This is kind of a one-size-fits-none regulation that I think is going to cause more problems than it solves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Derek Eaton, Nancy Allen, and then Denise Dare.
Hi, I'm Derek Eaton. I own and manage Seattle Oasis Vacation Rentals. I was born just a few blocks from here at Virginia Mason, love this city, and also believe that we can work with City Council to have affordable housing and short-term housing in the city. There are cities such as Nashville that have regulation that put a cap on the percentage of short-term housing as a percentage of the housing stock. Currently, the City Council's estimations is that this will change maybe 300 units. We're talking 0.1% of housing in here in the city of Seattle. Is that really going to make a change? Whereas my business, our travelers spend more than $9 million here in this city, and these are foreign tax dollars. These are tax dollars from people coming from out of state, as well as people, coming here for chemo treatments, for business. We're in much needed industry, and we hope for smart legislation that will both protect housing and the short-term rental industry. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Nancy Allen, and I'm General Counsel for Stay Alfred. That is a nationwide vacation rental and short-term housing business. Everything that's been said, we would like to echo those sentiments. We house families that come for cancer treatments. The typical stay is 14 days for a cancer treatment. We have medical personnel from Harborview, the premier medical facilities here, on record with us that have referred their patients to us. We also partner with the American Cancer Society to provide housing for individuals that are coming to be with their families during these times of need. We also house insurance loss victims who need to have some continuity in their lives while their homes are being restored. This ordinance does not contemplate this individual who requires this type of stay, and it's entirely incompatible with hotels and in many instances the home sharing arrangement. We agree with Derek. We believe Nashville has struck the right balance between protecting the fabric of neighborhoods and allowing the short-term rental market to flourish as well. We would recommend that the council consider accepting from the regulation the downtown areas. This is where these individuals primarily stay during these times of need. And we'd like you to also consider us as a resource, as we have been a part of this conversation around the country.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to bring up the long view of single-family homes, neighborhoods, and ask you a few questions to consider in your deliberations. Will non-owner occupied Airbnbs have a negative effect on the sense of community in single-family zones and tend to diminish civic engagement? Will non-owner occupied Airbnb owners vote to support local school levies, or will their guests participate in neighborhood watch programs? Will young families want to buy homes next door to houses with an ever-changing roster of people and the owner whom they may never meet? What impact will the monetization of single-family homes have on free multi-generational family housing? Will there be unforeseen negative effects on our private families and lives and personal relationships? Most broadly stated, we need the new sharing economy. Will it be a caring economy? Are we innovating or disrupting the social fabric, or both? I urge the council to answer these questions and think carefully about the future of single-family neighborhoods in Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Charlie Cuniff, Lisa Lavoie, and Daryl King.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Charlie Cuniff. I live in Columbia City, and I own a short-term rental in Fremont. We have all the same goal here. We need more housing for all different uses and needs. The policy brief has no verifiable numbers on how many units will be freed up into the long-term rental market, or at what price point, or where, in what neighborhoods. The brief also states that other cities such as New York, Philadelphia, Santa Monica, and San Jose have instituted limits. A quick Google search will show you that this has not really worked. Thousands of short-term rentals have moved to Craigslist, where there are no protections for the homeowner or renter. Airbnb is part of the disaggregation of the retail market, plus much like Uber, Lyft, and Amazon. To use a metaphor, the short-term genie is out of the bottle. Rather than fighting us to put the genie back in the bottle, ask the genie, all of us, for more money so that you can get more money to build more housing. Because that's really our goal, is more housing. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I wanted to start by thanking the committee for hearing me speak today. I was a homeless child. Now I am a homeless adult. 36% of King County is considered non-sheltered. I am one in a sea of many. There is no safety, only survival while homeless. We are forced to fight for the same resources. Staying humane in callous bureaucracy is a skill learned, not innate behavior. We are part of Seattle. We are your neighbors. We are part of your community. We are advocates from Capitol Hill Justice Circle. We are homeless. House Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Daryl King, owner of the Bacon Mansion Bed and Breakfast on Capitol Hill and treasurer of the Seattle Bed and Breakfast Association. The Seattle B&B Association supports legislation to regulate short-term rentals in the city. It's clear that visitor demand for short-term lodging is high, and we believe that bed and breakfast and legal vacation rentals offer unique and authentic experience to these visitors. We applaud the City Council's effort to streamline the process and to increase accountability for public safety and to paying appropriate taxes and fees. We do have some concerns. Number one, for a new B&B to survive as a viable business in Seattle, high-cost housing market, at least 5 guest rooms are necessary in residential zones. The short-term rental license should be required from day one, not after a 90-day limit is met. Number 3, prospective short-term rental hosts still have to wander through a maze of separate ordinances to ensure compliance, as do city staffers who are tasked with helping them. We understand that long-term rentals are the main concern. Seattle's licensed B&Bs play a vital role. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shelley Golding. Shelley Golding will be followed by Rob and Rhonda Porter, Courtney Kaler, and David Katz.
My name is Shelley Goulding, owner and operator of 9 Cranes Inn Bed and Breakfast on Finney Ridge. As a local entrepreneur who owns an inspected and approved bed and breakfast in the city of Seattle, I support legislation that holds short-term rental hosts accountable to the standards that existing licensed B&Bs have long met in the areas of public health and safety, supporting local communities with tax dollars and business fees, and employing local citizens. The current proposal goes a long way toward encouraging all short-term rental hosts to be responsible service providers and community supporters. And while I know that your main concern is the shortage of long-term housing, please don't lose sight of the fact that clean, safe, and civic-minded short-term rental accommodation is important to our city's reputation and economic success. Many, many visitors still want to know that they are laying their heads on clean pillows, eating food properly handled, and sleeping in quarters properly inspected and insured. To that end, please level the playing field among all short-term rental accommodations. Do not penalize existing B&Bs by failing to enforce new regulations, and don't prevent new B&Bs from opening with unrealistic occupancy limits. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Robert Porter. I'm in District 1, West Seattle. Our story is we bought a property next door to us on Beach Drive. It borders Puget Sound. The house has been vacant for over 4 years with weeds growing through it and ivy. The bulkhead is completely deteriorating, which in turn jeopardizes our house. After 9 months of being on the market with the bank, nobody wanted this property. Even the most optimistic developer didn't want this property. We bought it to protect ourselves, fixed it up. I spent months of my own labor trying to get this house in shape to be able to put on the short-term market. It's the only way we're going to recoup. My job's been phased out. This is the only way we can go forward. I don't think we fit your what your goals are of affordable housing and more houses on the market. We can do neither with ours. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I'm next. I'm Courtney Kaler, McCullough Hill Leary, representing Sea to Sky Rentals, and Michelle Aquavella. I'm here to ask you to reject this short-term rental legislation and instead asking you something you probably don't hear very often. Please tax us. Sea to Sky is a small, local, woman-owned business. It manages short-term rental properties, and this legislation will put it out of business. That will impact its employees and impact its owners. Non-conforming uses and owners' reasonable investment-backed expectations are protected by law, and the legislation recognizes neither of those things, raising significant takings and substantive due process concerns. Also, I will echo the comments of several folks who went before me that this legislation will have significant unintended consequences. Short-term rentals are not just for tourists. They support our medical institutions, our universities, and many different industries throughout the city of Seattle. As just one example, Ronald McDonald House is a residential use in a residential zone, and this legislation will impact it. Limiting short-term rental is not your only or your best
Thank you.
option.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello. My wife and I have lived in Seattle for over 30 years. We are concerned about the city's livability and the lack of long-term housing. We're also Airbnb hosts. We're pleased with the proposal put forth by Councilman Burgess and feel that it fairly addresses the issues for hosts who, like us, have short-term rental in our primary residence. We request that the process and fees to obtain short-term rental operator's license be fair and reasonable. We started our Airbnb after our daughter left for college. We suddenly had extra space in our house and additional expenses for education. We researched Airbnb and decided hosting was a good fit for us, our neighborhood, and Seattle. From the start, it's been a positive experience. We've hosted guests from many different parts of the world. We love helping them become acquainted with Seattle, and our guests bring more business to our favorite neighborhood, restaurants, cafes, and stores. Our neighbors have been very supportive, and one even started their own Airbnb. Once again, we support the proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Betsy Bell. Betsy Bell, we followed by Joe Kenny and Diane Butler.
My name is Betsy Bell, and I live in West Seattle, and I want to say something for the widow on a fixed income who has a spare bedroom, who enjoys the guests and it allows her to stay in her home. This may apply to widows as well, widowers as well. And I think I have many friends who have asked me about what I've been doing for the last 2 years. I think it would be very onerous for them to have to go through a lot of paperwork and a business license and all that sort of thing. It's just not practical, and yet they will be able to stay in their home and keep their mortgage paid if they're allowed to have their back bedroom, share the kitchen, share the bathroom, and live with them on a very short-term basis. So I hope that the regulations will take this type of an owner into account. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Diane Butler. I have a 2-bedroom condo in the Electra building, which is right next to the convention center. I've had it for a year, and I've had a great time with it. I love my guests. They come from all over the world. There are academics who are coming to conferences. There are folks who are visiting family members in the hospital. There were these 5 boys who drove down in their van from Alberta to attend their first Mariners game. And these folks who are coming here, I think, and the statements that we've heard up to now point out that what you need to look at is not just affordable housing, but affordable staying for retirees who are able to stay in their home because of a little extra cash, for visitors who are coming here who want some options to hotels, and for those of us who want to stay on top of our bills. This has been a godsend to us. My condo has helped me pay for college for my daughter, which really would have been a stretch otherwise. It would have put us way in debt. So I hope you'll take these things into account.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joe Kenny. My wife and I built our small business, Kenny Properties, from scratch over the course of the last 15 years. We employ 3 people, paying an average rate of $30 per hour, in addition to a Hispanic cleaning team, husband and wife, whom we pay over $80,000 a year to clean our units. I should also point out that in 2015, I collected and paid over $250,000 of Washington state sales taxes and paid all of my City of Seattle business license taxes. Over the course of the last 15 years, we have renovated 4 vintage Seattle homes, saving them from certain destruction by developers seeking to build yet another cube. We took what were horribly dilapidated homes that had been converted into apartments in the 50s and made them into short-term rentals and corporate housing. While I wholeheartedly support regulation and taxation, you would destroy this business with a 90-day limit for non-owner-occupied short-term rentals. You would destroy these jobs. You would destroy affordable vacation and corporate housing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rich Vogel, followed by Nuri Omer and Doug Fraser.
Yeah, my name's Rich Vogel. So I actually have a prepared paper here, which I'll submit. But it speaks to a whole lot of what everybody else has already said. But there's one point, and my guests are amazing and all that other kind of stuff, and it's helping me improve my property. But something that people aren't talking about is I have property in West Seattle. I have family and friends that come in from out of town, especially family, my kids. And so I have the house for them to stay, and then I have the rest of the house from the time when they're not there. So what do? So I have an interesting background. I've rented a room. And I've rented a room from somebody else, and I've actually rented out rooms. So I have that experience as well. So based on that experience, it wasn't something I wanted to do. I've had my personal property stolen when a neighbor of mine was renting a room right next to me. I've had to chase down renters who, because they couldn't rent anyplace else, they rented a room from me, and I had to chase them down for their income. Now, I don't think my neighbors actually I think the people that I have in my place are the types of guests that my neighbors would really appreciate. These are people that are coming from overseas. These are international students.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Good morning. My name is Nuri Omar. I have been lived in Seattle, Washington with my family for the last 14 years. I am an immigrant from Ethiopia. I currently work as property management for Joe Kenny Property. I have been in this position for 1 year. As an employee of Kenny Property, I do my best to provide the best customer service and quality management to our short-term tenant. I enjoy working with our client and other employees of the company. Most importantly, it is a job that is helping me take care of my large family of 7. As an employee of Kenny Property, I have a secure income and benefit, which my past job didn't provide. For the last 10 years, I worked both as a taxi and truck driver. Although I worked 7 days a week, that income was inconstant and it lacked necessary benefits. I want you to know that short renters like Kenny Property provide quality employment.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Sorry, time's up. Next speaker, please.
And after Doug, we'll have Gretchen Johnston, Michelle Aguavella, and Elizabeth Ward.
Hi, my name is Doug Fraser. I check in tenants for various owners at 3 downtown condominiums whose governing documents have always allowed for rentals of less than 30 days. I'm here today to speak on behalf of my fellow workers who for the last 20 years have had jobs at Furnished Rentals, jobs as cleaners, maintenance people, decorators, and more, jobs that already pay between $15 and $25 an hour, jobs that don't require a college degree, jobs that will be lost if the current 90-day limit for furnished rentals is enacted. 5 years ago, I was wandering the streets of Seattle homeless. 2 women who managed furnished rentals gave me a job, a livelihood, my dignity. At 63 years old, I worry that all that will be lost. I asked the City Council and the Mayor's office to sit down with small business, individual owners, workers, and other stakeholders, just like you did with the big developers at Hala, and hammer out an agreement acceptable to everyone, or an agreement that keeps our jobs.
Hello, my name is Gretchen Johnston. My husband and I have lived in Seattle since 1973. 20 years ago, we purchased a small, modest home in the Madison Valley, Madrona area, and currently through Airbnb, we are renting out a private room, bathroom, and private entrance. So why are we doing this? Well, it's fun, and we're meeting many interesting people, but that's not only or even the main reason. The economic downturn eliminated my husband's job along with what we thought was going to be an okay retirement account. When I retired 2 years ago, we were faced with a dilemma. After paying the mortgage, insurance, taxes, and buying food, there wasn't going to be very much left over every month. So we would see our small savings quickly disappear. So what do? Do we get a housemate to help share the expenses? No, we did Airbnb. We need this income to pay our mortgage, and it's helping. Thank you.
Michelle, just before you go, I want to point out that right at the end of public testimony, we're then going to have a panel discussion about the suggested regulations. And many of you are addressing issues that actually this legislation does not affect. So, for example, the last speaker who's renting a room in her home really won't be affected hardly at all. So please go ahead, and I hope you can stay for that presentation. Go ahead, Michelle.
Tim. My name is Michelle Aquavella. My property management company, Sea to Sky Rentals, property manages 46 vacation rentals in the city of Seattle. I started Sea to Sky after my oldest daughter was born as a new mom with an infant. I sought a creative way to continue to make income. I started with the mother-in-law apartment in my own home on Finney Ridge and officially became a licensed, insured, and tax-paying business in 2003. In 2007, the city of Seattle began shutting down my vacation rentals, claiming it was a commercial use and not allowed in residential zones. Nothing in the city code defined it as a commercial use. Between 2007 and 2009, I fought the city of Seattle. We ended up in King County Superior Court where my attorney, Courtney Kaler, successfully argued that short-term rental use is a residential use, and we prevailed. Judge Spector ruled that short-term rental use is a residential use and therefore allowed in any residential zone in the city of Seattle. Since then, I have built my business as a legal, properly licensed, insured, and tax-paying business. Currently, our 3,000 square foot office sits in the Fremont neighborhood of Seattle. We employ 15 people, most of whom are housekeepers, laundry attendants, and
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
After Elizabeth, we'll have Rebecca Reuter, Steve Boyle, and Howard Greenwich.
My name is Elizabeth Ward, and my husband and I own a home in Seattle. The home we own in Seattle is the only home we own. I'm a longtime Seattleite and lived in Seattle from '92 to 2011. I have an 8-year-old son who was born here. My family considers Seattle to be our hometown. We have friends and family in Seattle, including my son's aunts and uncles. Due to my husband's need to relocate to Southern California for his job in 2011, we moved to the evil state of California. We plan to move back to Seattle as soon as logistically possible. Since we cannot yet do so, we operate our home as a short-term vacation rental, employing the services of Sea to Sky Rentals, who you just heard from, based in the Seattle neighborhood of Fremont. We stay in our home in Seattle as much as possible. The rest of the year, an amount of time that exceeds the regulations' proposed 90-day limit, the house is occupied by short-term guests. Under the proposed regulations, because we occupy the house ourselves for short periods over the course of the year, we would not release our house onto the long-term rental market. It would sit vacant when we are not in it ourselves, and Seattle would forego the tax revenues and tourist dollars that our home currently generates as a short-term rental. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rebecca Reuter, and I own a duplex, a 1916 duplex in the Northeast Green Lake neighborhood. I want to mention I'm a Hispanic American small business owner. I do have a Washington business license, and I'm a government employee. And I live in one part of my unit, and rent out the other. And as a good government employee, I support and appreciate smart legislation and regulation. And as this regulation currently stands, it's neither. Since the fall of 2012, I have rented my lower unit as a short-term rental, mainly because I wanted the flexibility to have my relatives stay where I live because my other unit is too small to have a guest room. Luckily for my neighbors, I decided to put it on the short-term rental market, and now I am my neighbor's guest room. And they love it because they're grandparents and they're people who come to stay a long term to see their families. And please support that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I grew up without any family. I grew up in foster care, and I have no one to fall back on if things get tough. Airbnb's been a tool for low entrepreneurs to cope with housing issues for someone like myself. Like, my only means for being able to plan for expected needs and my only hopes for long-term housing is to be able to afford a mortgage is Airbnb. I understand these regulations being put into place to help with the current housing crisis, but you will be displacing many people who can barely afford rent, like myself. That said, it'll be a lot easier to just meet taxes, make the problem fix itself. That's really the only solution I could see that would be helpful. You're saying that these won't affect people like me, but adding a day limit to how many days we can host, that itself is a problem because I am a contract worker and I could be unemployed for 6 months looking for a job. And during that entire time, I need Airbnb to get by. Also, additionally, I've hosted 1,000 people in the last 4 years, 1,000 people. And a lot of those times I host as a hobby, and I pay just for the expenses because at that time I was doing it for fun. And that's hundreds of dollars that each person saved in the city so they can.
Thank you. Thanks.
After Howard, we'll have Sandy Martin, Cynthia Wong, and John Clark.
Morning, council members. My name is Howard Greenwich. I'm with Puget Sound Sage. Our mission is to grow communities where all families thrive. We've been working on affordable housing and trying to prevent displacement for over 10 years in Seattle. The market forces that are arrayed against low-income communities that limit the housing supply are tremendous. We project in the next 3 years that with the existing growth rates of short-term rentals, we could see 900 to 1,600 units converted or put into the short-term rental market that could otherwise be long-term rental market or long-term rental units. Our deepest concern here is we work with community organizations and leaders throughout South Seattle who see members of their community being forced to leave every single day. They have low incomes, they're people of color, they're immigrants, refugees, they have no assets, and they have no choices as they're pushed to the suburbs. And we support this legislation as one tool among many to make sure that future displacement doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Cynthia Wong. I'm with the public policy team at Airbnb. I just want to start off by thanking you, Councilmember Burgess, and your staff for your careful consideration of short-term rental issues over the last few months. I think we've heard from many folks today who are a testament to the way home sharing has become an economic lifeline for people in Seattle. As a company, over the last few months, we've released a lot of data so that policymakers aren't going to be making rules around this in a vacuum. We've released housing data and we've released economic impact data. This morning, we released additional data showing about 11% or 350 hosts in Seattle are using Airbnb income to prevent themselves from being evicted or their homes, or saving their homes from foreclosure. So the most important message we'd want to note today is that there are a lot of different ways home sharing is occurring, and each category of those people should be treated differently. We do have two concerns. One with the frequency cap for second homes. Our data shows that 157 days is the juncture at which a short-term rental outcompetes a long-term rental. So we urge relooking at that. It would still meet the objectives of preserving long-term housing. And secondly, with mandatory data disclosures, we think there are sensible solutions around that, and we can continue working together on a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you that Airbnb has been engaged with us for close to a year on this issue, and we appreciate your ongoing dialogue with us and your general support of the direction we're heading in. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sandy Martin. I host Airbnb out of a room in my home in Fremont. Airbnb started in the dire times of 2008-09. The repercussions of the downturn still reverberate throughout the country, so earning dollars through home sharing keeps many people afloat and meeting their needs. As with all things American, there are the few who see opportunity and abuse it to the detriment of those who follow the rules without stretching them. I speak to those who rent out several homes or units that they do not live in or near. I don't see how they embody the spirit or intent of Airbnb or how they benefit and support the neighborhood their units are in. Legislation should be focused on these primarily, and I'm referring again to the hosts who run what I consider a commercial enterprise. While simple, fair, and supportive legislation should be in place for those who are already performing in the spirit and intent of Airbnb and essentially offer no threat to affordable housing and support their neighborhoods. Thank you.
John Clark. John Clark, followed by Kevin Bagley and Van Woods.
And it's very okay if your comments have already been made and you want to waive your appearance, you can do that too.
Todd, you're first. Van Woods. Hello, I'm Van Woods of Seattle City Suites. I appreciate the opportunity to present our position. My wife and I started our small business in 2008. We managed 9 short-term rentals in the downtown core, and the policy as it's currently written would put us out of business. 8 people who we pay and have always paid for the last 8 years above the minimum wage would be out of a job. We are huge advocates for affordable housing, and we don't really see how 1% of the housing stock will cause market pricing to drive affordable housing into this market. It doesn't make sense. The numbers don't add up. Please publish your numbers before you put us out of business. Councilman Burgess, I appreciate and have listened to what you have said many times about 85% would be unaffected. Where does that come from? I want to believe that. Sage, please publish your numbers. Let's have a real, honest, open dialogue. Airbnb is one data source. Thank you for opening up more data. Expedia, who brings 3,000 to 4,500 jobs to this city, where's HomeAway at this dialogue? VRBO, yes. Let's please take our time before we start putting people out of jobs. I really think that if affordable housing is the most important thing, tax us. I agree completely. This would be the first income stream you could dedicate to affordable housing.
Thank you.
So after Kevin, we'll have Emma Woods, Angelina Chamberlain, and Angela Tam.
Hi, my name is Kevin Bagley, and I have a secondary property as a vacation rental. If the 90-day restriction is implemented, I, like other vacation rental owners, will optimize my business to use it for the highest demand. It will not go into the long-term rental pool. Vacation rentals are small businesses. The 90-day limitation would hurt small businesses. It would hurt tourism. It would hurt people employed by vacation rentals, and it will hurt Seattle. This could be a fair trade issue. The root cause is the influx of high-tech, high-paying jobs into Seattle. It just doesn't make sense to harm a large number of small businesses to maybe gain a few long-term rentals.
Good morning, Council. My name is Emma Woods, and I am the owner of Seattle City Suites, a woman-owned small short-term rental business here in Seattle. And I second a lot of the comments that have been mentioned already. I also am similar to Michelle Acavella in the case where I had a corporate job, was traveling extensively, decided to proceed with this property management business in order to take care of my two small children, and this is our livelihood currently. We have been licensed from day one. We are heavily insured. We follow protocol for every place that we work in. We hire another woman-owned business that has 7 employees dedicated to our company. I have 2 people that we hired last year out of unemployment and pay them above minimum wage. And if this goes into effect with the 90-day ruling, we're completely out of business. I lose my job, my cleaning staff loses their job, and 2 support staff lose their jobs. We completely agree that we need affordable housing. We agree action should be taken, but yet again, 1% of the city's inventory is dedicated to the short-term rental market, and not the solution of losing 100 jobs or over in this case.
Thank you.
What is the study providing short-term rentals or
Thanks. Time's up.
Hi, my name is Angelina Chamberlain, and I've been an Airbnb host exclusively for 6 years. I've also been a traveler with Airbnb and have been able to afford to travel due to the good prices on some of the homes around the world. But what I want to talk about today is a little bit different. I want to talk about being a cultural ambassador. I went to the Airbnb Open this last year in November and was there for the attacks. And I found that the mother and daughter family that I was staying with, I came home to sirens. I was 10 blocks away from the attacks. All I did was sit there and hold the hand of my host. And that's what I want to say. Now, whenever I host someone, I think about the fact that they've traveled over the world. They may have not gone through that extreme, but all they want is to feel like a human, and that's what I offer. Thanks to Airbnb.
My name is Angela. I'm on Beacon Hill, and I'm on my primary residence, but have the ADU unit, mother-in-law property. And my story is that I graduated with a master's degree in counseling. I own 3 small businesses, and I am a person of color that's an entrepreneur. And we, as small business owners, are engines in Seattle. We drive a lot of our economy. And for me, I have a daughter who has severe autoimmune disease, and our Airbnb saved us from a lot of the healthcare bills that were piling up. So it is a lifeline for us as well. I do want to say, as a small business owner, that we do want to play fair. We empathize with the housing crisis, but we do want to play fair. I am licensed, insured, and pay my business taxes. And we all want to contribute to the economy. And we all are storytellers, and we want to make this world smaller and helping us to connect. And we provide a space for that in our Airbnb homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Margaret Jack, followed by Bowman Donahoe and Ron Evans.
Hello, I'm Margaret Jack. Thank you. I also am speaking to the issue of being a cultural ambassador and echo many of the sentiments of people who are depending upon the income that they're getting from short-term rental. Thank you for the great legislation that you have already put together for home sharing. I believe this is a step in the right direction to permit owner-occupied properties to operate as short-term rentals. Let's please continue to make decisions that support assisting people who are bringing a valuable service to our city. The decision to share our home began in 1980 when I was a foreign exchange student myself. After living abroad and having several hosted travel experiences, my husband and I knew we wanted to open our home to visitors. Beginning in 1984, and while raising our family, we hosted over 25 students from a variety of countries. Later, our then teenage children also were students abroad, both living with host families, excuse me, one in Chile and one in Switzerland. At that time, the internet was becoming more prevalent, and we were able to.
Thank you. Thanks. Yep.
Hello, my name is Bowman Donahoe, and I am part of a condominium association. I live there. I am in favor of the free market system. I'm in favor of property rights, for sure. But with any kind of market-driven activity, there needs to be some rules put in place. And that is, so far as zoning and things like that, that is a primary responsibility, so far as I can tell, of a city council. So I appreciate that you all are taking this up as an issue. I know that our homeowner, our condominium is sort of an entry-level type of place where people, they're not going to be more than $500,000. In other words, we are being taken over by short-term rentals, basically. The character of our condominium is being changed. That therefore changes the nature of the person who's living there and the participation of the community in the association's affairs. So I am in full support of some.
Thanks. Thank you.
After Ron, we'll have Lilia Medina, Kevin Code, and Elizabeth Dubuque.
Thank you, council members, for hearing our concerns this morning. My name is Ron Evans. I am owner and operator of Seattle Garden Guest House, a small B&B in the Boulevard Park area of West Seattle. I agree with all that's been said today regarding rentals of owner-occupied short-term single-family housing. I am concerned about privacy issues surrounding the quarterly reporting on hosts, concerned on how that information will be used and who has access to it. Obtaining a city business license, as well as complying with Airbnb's own standards and policies, should suffice, especially now that Airbnb is being required to follow these new regulations. I don't agree with the requirement for private host information to be accessible to the general public, which would be the result of these regulations as I see it. This raises concerns of privacy, especially for reasons like not wanting my home address disclosed in a public forum, the layout of my home and its amenities becoming public information, and so forth. This is not any business of the general public, but rather we should trust in Airbnb to police its own hosts and for all parties to follow the requirements of these regulations. For a growing number of us, Airbnb is or has the potential to be a full-time occupation. I am a classical musician by trade, and this has helped me to bridge the gap and see my dreams to fruition. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lilia Medina, and I have a small company, cleaning, and I've been doing this short-term vacation for Emma for like 4 years, and this has been my income for paying my bills, pay my rent, and pay everything. If you guys do that, not only me, and there's going to be 7 more people without a job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kevin Code. I live over in the CD with my partner. We have been Airbnb hosts for over a year now, and we rent out 2 bedrooms in our house. And it's been a blast meeting people. But for me, the income is really become important. We're both getting older. We both work physical jobs. And the income we get from this has allowed us to back off from the other work that we need to do. My partner's a gardener. I do small home repair. And it's huge. We've been self-employed forever, no pensions. So it's been a big deal for us. We also have an off-site rental unit that we do short-term rental on. And while I would prefer to be able to keep it short-term, I'm fine with turning it long-term. Thank you.
Thank you.